Okay, in this tutorial we're going to create some text that appears to be glossy or chrome with some color in it. So let's go ahead and make a new file. Make sure you got pixels for both the width and the height, and we're going to make this one 800 by 600. Click OK. Now the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to paint the background a dark color so that the text that we create pops out. So go ahead and go underneath your gradient tool by holding down the button on it and go to our paint bucket tool, and then we're going to come to our color here. I already have kind of a dark gray selected. You want to go not in the middle but somewhere kind of lower. We want a pretty dark gray to start out with our picture, so go ahead and click OK, and we're going to paint this a dark gray. The next thing we're going to do is come to our text tool. So I'm going to hit my text tool, and for my text I'm going to use a font called Copperplate Gothic Bold, and you can use any font that you want to that has this kind of bold feel. Blocky letters will work very well for this. Don't pick a font that is not blocky in its letters, and you can try some of them out, but you want a smooth blocky letter. So Copperplate Gothic Bold. My name fits really well inside this square with 175 points. You can choose anywhere between 150 and 200, but experiment to make sure that your name can fit onto the screen. Do left aligned, and we're going to make our text black, so I'm going to click here, and make sure you choose black because otherwise you won't be able to see your typing. So choose black, click OK, and I'm going to click right here and start typing. But before I start typing, I'm going to hit caps lock so that I put all of my text in caps. And here's my name. And with my mouse I'm going to go outside of the text area so it turns into an arrow, and I'm going to try and center this into the middle of the picture, or the frame here, and this looks good. So I'm going to click on layer 1, and now I've got my name down there. Now we're going to apply a bunch of layer styles to this, and that's how we're going to get the effect that we're desiring here. And to get to layer styles, we go under the menu layer, and then I'm going to go down to layer style, and the first one we're going to do is a gradient overlay. So our gradient overlay basically is blending from one color to another. Make sure you move your layer style window to the side so that you can see some of your text, and then you can see the changes happen on the fly. So here's our gradient overlay. We are going to keep the blending mode at normal, and we are going to have the opacity stay at 100, but the gradient here, this bar, we're going to click to edit the gradient. So go ahead and click the actual gradient here, and you'll see that there's a whole bunch of different gradients here, but we're not going to use one of those. We're going to use our own colors. So these are little paint buckets here that represent the colors that our gradient has, and we're going to choose a couple of them here. So the first paint bucket that I choose here, I'm going to double click, and now I'm going to choose a color. Now instead of actually trying to have you pinpoint the exact color, I'm going to give you the code of the color. So the code of the color goes down here in these numbers, and you can find any color by putting in a code that represents that color. And the first color we're going to put in is BEDEEC. So there's our first color, is that pale blue. Click OK. Now we got a pale blue, and I'm going to actually make a brand new paint bucket by just clicking right here with my hand, and now I've got a new paint bucket. Makes it the same color as the last one, so I'm going to double click this one, and I'm going to go down to the code, and I'm going to put in my next code. The next code is BCB7D7. There's our light purplish blue, and I'm going to make another paint bucket, and I'm going to double click that one, and I'm going to make this code, highlight it, and put F0C9D7. And we got that pale pinkish color, so click OK. I'm going to add another paint bucket right here, double click it, and I'm going to make this code F5C8B5. Add another paint bucket, double click it. This code is going to be F5F2CA. Click OK. Our last paint bucket, is going to be this last one, and this one is going to be DFF3 F-E. Click OK. And we see that we have all these like colors going across this gradient. Let's grab these paint buckets and drag them so that they are more evenly spaced. We want these to be pretty evenly spaced. They don't have to be perfect, but we do want them to have fairly even space between all of them. Alright, click OK. And we are ready to move on to our next layer style. So the next one we're going to do is satin. Don't click the little checkbox here, instead click the actual word satin, because then we can go in and change our mode. So the first thing we're going to change is blend mode from multiply to hard light. So go ahead and find hard light. That's what we're going to put on there. We are going to make the opacity stay at 50%, the angle stay at 19%. I'm going to make the distance here 3. So go ahead and highlight that and hit 3, or you can just slide this bar, but it is easier to just enter it right here. And the size we're going to make 8. And for our contour, this is the way that the light reflects off of the letters, and right now it's on this curved one right here. So click this little arrow and it's going to give us a couple of different options. So this option right here, the 2 little spikes for our contour, double click that, and that's what we want. You should get this kind of glassy look on your letters. The next one we're going to do is inner glow, so go ahead and click the words inner glow. And for our inner glow, we are going to choose soft light instead of screen, so go ahead and click here and choose soft light. We're going to keep 75 as our opacity. We're going to make the color here of our glow be black, so I'm going to go down and hit black, click OK. I'm going to make our choke 21, so I'm just going to highlight this and enter 21. I'm going to make my size 13, and my range I'm going to keep 50. Everything else I'm going to stay the same, so he should have the lettering looking like this now. The next one we're going to do is an outer glow, so I'm going to click outer glow, and we're going to choose, instead of screen, we're going to choose vivid light, and we are going to do 71% opacity. So you can slide this to 71. We're going to make our color, instead of this yellow, we're going to just slide it over to white. For our size, we're going to make it 49. For our spread, we're going to keep it at 0. And for our contour, we're going to keep the contour the same. Now we're going to add a drop shadow. So go ahead and click drop shadow. And my drop shadow, I want it to come straight down, so I'm going to move this to a 90 degrees. Or you can type it in for 90. For our angle, that's for our angle. For our distance, we're going to make this a distance of 9. And we are going to make the size 18. And keep the contour the same. Now comes a little bit of a tricky part. We're going to add a bevel to this, so I'm going to click bevel, and for my bevel I'm going to choose inner, I'm going to choose smooth, and we're going to make the depth the maximum. We're going to slide this to 1000. That's going to give us this nice hard edge here, and I'm going to change the size to 35. And I'm going to soften it 1. For my shading angle, the shading angle I'm going to keep at 90, and for my altitude, I'm going to make this 16. And for my contour, this is the part that gets a little tricky. For my contour, I'm actually going to click on the actual contour line here, and I'm going to make a custom contour. So my contour, you're going to want to make a little dot here on the contour line, and I'm going to drag this down to the bottom, and I'm going to make another dot here, and I'm going to drag this all the way to the top like this, and then I'm going to basically make this shape, and you just have to copy it by clicking dots in the right place. So bear with me for a moment. Okay, this is the tricky part that I said. So you basically want to get this kind of a view where it's shadowy with the gloss. So you're going to have this kind of sweep from the bottom here. It's going to go all the way to the top, then it's going to come down and kind of pulse up once and down and then up again. This way you are going to get this kind of effect where it looks kind of chromy. Okay, so make your contour something in this kind of an angle. It's kind of hard to tell, but basically if you click on each of these dots, then you can see the first one's at 0 and 1, second one's 1913, third one's 3300, fourth one is 4495, fifth one, oh I changed this a little, fifth one is 4758, then 6968, 8038, 9666, and 100. So click OK. And our opacity down here is going to be 65. And our other opacity is going to be color burn. And we're going to make this 38. That's going to bring the color out on our letters here. Okay, that's the last layer style we're going to add, so click OK, and this is what you have right here. It looks pretty nice, but we're going to make this just slightly darker, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to add a fill adjustment layer. So it's this black and white circle right here, create new fill adjustment layer. Click that, and we are going to go to exposure. And for our first exposure number, we're going to slide this bar to the right until we get to about 38, 39 plus. Okay, for our offset, I'm going to slide this to the left until we kind of darken this down. We don't want it to go too black, but we do want to darken that gray just a little bit. Bring these a little bit darker. So I'm going to about negative 0.0961. You can play with this a little bit to see what you like, but probably around -1 or so is good. Negative 0.0961. And then the third one we are going to slide to the right, and I'm going to put this at about 6.8. Yeah. So I'll put this at 0.68. And there you have it. You got your chromy colored text with a glow around it, and that is the completed product right there.